Yo, 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 what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, the franchise player, Double B Bad Blood, right here in the house once again on the Roundtable Pro Wrestling Podcast. And so, what I'm going to do today is something special. I usually don't do a podcast 3 days in a row. I know I did one yesterday, and we talked a little bit, myself and Chemical Julian, and we talked about the state of wrestling and, the return of CM Punk and all the great things that happened over the weekend. But today, I'm bringing on a guest that I've had on before. Really great guy, someone I've known for decades. It seems like, um, he's going through a lot of great things in his life right now, and I want to kind of bring him on so we can talk about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me bring in the one, the only TJ Perkins. TJ, welcome, brother. Welcome back
Well,
to the
what's
podcast.
going on, brother? Thank you very much for having me.
Oh man, it's been a while, man, and I see that you got some changes in your life.
A bit, yeah, a bit.
You want to talk about some of these crazy changes that just popped up out of nowhere?
Well, it's really just one primary change. Finally getting the family started. Baby boy on the way. He's due any day now. We're in the final few weeks, so
Oh
it's my
man,
first, and it's changed my life already. So it's a pretty
you're
big
already getting
thing.
giddy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've been with you through a lot of great things in your life, and I'm just gonna lay this out to you right here, right now. You're not gonna get sleep for the next like 2 years.
Well, a good
Just
thing is I'm a vampire, and my better half, my boss,
yeah,
she's a morning person, so we got the tandem covered, and I'm used to no sleep, so I think
yeah.
it'll be I think it'll be good.
It's gonna be awesome, man. I see what you've done with your life and how you've made a lot of great strides, and you know, fatherhood's another great one, man. And I think you're gonna kick that ass too.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the sentiment. But yeah,
So,
any day now he should show up. So
so it's interesting because I met your other half, like, God, I want to say like 5 years ago in Florida. She was working a show called Full Throttle Pro Wrestling. It was a WrestleMania week, and I was going to actually bring her out to Portland to work a show in Portland, and I never got around to getting a chance to do it. So
well,
now,
she's eager to get back on the saddle. So
oh man,
I'll
so
be
there it
the
is.
I'll be the stay at home dad. I'll wrap up my career and she'll take over.
That's so crazy, man. Well, let her know when she's ready to jump back on the saddle that there's an open booking for her here in Portland. I do owe her that. I told her that like 5 years ago. She's got it now, and you're always welcome back here. As a matter of fact, I know you're going to be up in Northwest pretty soon, aren't you?
Yeah. Let's see. I had there's one coming up this week in Washington. It'll be in Everett. And then I think there's some other pending Washington dates that are coming up on the schedule. Just got to iron out the details. So now with everything starting to open up in different regions, I'm starting to kind of get the touring schedule back up. So
So how does that work with your Impact dates and your New Japan Pro Wrestling dates?
so Impact still kind of schedules in blocks. So I just kind of work around that, or I guess if they snooze, they lose. They can they can deal without me. I mean, I've never been. I've said this like a million times. I don't play for the logo on the front. And I don't mean
Yeah,
that to as in like it's all about me or anything like that. It's not what I mean. I just mean that like I don't have to play for the Yankees to feel like I'm playing baseball. So whoever wants me to be part of their show or would like to have me. I build my schedule accordingly, and it doesn't. It's not predicated on like clout or size or excuse me, presence or anything like that. I feel just as fulfilled as a professional wrestler anywhere I go. So sometimes it's impact on the schedule. New Japan is really great about working around a lot of what my schedule is. And as the world opens up and travel Like that's going to be more of a touring system. So, I mean, obviously, I'll be dedicated to them primarily, probably first and foremost. But otherwise, I mean, any place. If you got a ring, you got a show, I'd love to do it.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You got boots, he will travel, and I know that for a fact. He's been to BCW twice actually, and we're looking at bringing you in a couple more times. I know, just exciting. Was
Excuse me,
really
sorry.
excited the fact that I told him I had you on the podcast today, and he's like, "We need to make Just Exciting versus TJP Part 3," and I'm like, "Well, the second time he was our partner, so it'd be like Part 2 this time." But yeah, so we are definitely looking forward to bringing you back up here, and like I said, I've been watching you since like day one, and I've seen you grow into like this fucking superstar. And the thing is, a lot of people will be like, God, he's so like he's such a big name, but you're the most humble guy that I've ever met. And the simple fact that you like be it 10 people or 10,000 people, you go out there and perform like it's WrestleMania every time. So I appreciate that.
Like I said, I mean, the game is, I love what we do, and it's all the same to me. I enjoy it. Like I enjoy being in an empty practice ring in front of nobody just as much as I would at WrestleMania. I don't need the attention to feel fulfilled. I think a lot of guys they conveniently mix the lines of whether they love wrestling, like they love performing, they love the job that we do, the art, or do they love the attention for the art? And I think there's a difference, like if your goal is, I want to be on AEW Dynamite someday, or I want to be on WrestleMania someday, like, not that you don't love what we do, but you, at some point, I think for your own integrity, you should ask yourself, like, do you love the attention or do you really love what we do? And it's not that you can't love both, but there is a difference. If you don't feel fulfilled, if you can't do things like that, then perhaps it's more so that you want the attention and like glory and fame and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But a lot of people, they refuse to acknowledge the difference. But for me, that's something that I recognized from day one. Like, if all those things, the attention or whatever, helps me to feed my family and provide new opportunities to wrestle and do what I do, then great. Then I'll pursue those things for those reasons. But outside of that, like, I know that firmly, I purely love the art. I'd be just as happy on a Tuesday night in a practice gym with just a couple training partners as I would, in the Tokyo Dome. It doesn't really matter to me.
Man, I personally can tell you guys, like right now, I know for a fact that that's how he is. You've always been like a student of the game. I've watched countless matches of your work, and I've seen, and I can always say every time I see your work, it's something different. I mean, it's from like the old EWF days with the blonde streak in your hair, then to
well, when you get to be old like you and you got to reinvent yourself. I mean, I gotta come up with a new aesthetic and a new new things here and there as I go, or else your shelf life gets really short.
That's so true, man. I try to tell the young guys all the time. Would you rather be a big fish in a small pond or a great white shark in the ocean? And they ask me, what does that even mean? As long as you stay in one specific spot and you're doing the same thing over and over again, that's the definition of insanity. It's not going to be any different. There's not going to be a different result. If you want to be a big fish in a small pond, that's fine, but you'll never go anywhere. Get out and see the world. Go out there or go to other promotions, be it big promotions or small promotions. Get the work while you can, because that's going to make you a better wrestler. I've traveled all over the country just like you have, and it's different everywhere you go. You learn something different every time you wrestle. You step in the ring with somebody, you watch someone work out, growth. If you stay stagnant, you might as well just hang up the boots now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that lends itself. I mean, what we do is it's a life experience game, that's why, like, what we do, your prime as a performer is usually you don't hit your prime until your mid 30s, because it takes a long time to kind of mature and be able to read a room and read people and understand cultures, and not even culture. And culture sounds like such a big concept, because you think culture, you almost think like international, like other countries, and that's not even that. It's not even that. I mean, like, it could just be just outside of your city, like another state, or going down south or to the East Coast, or that's culture too. Like, I mean, just understanding all these little different nuances of humans on the social level, it helps what we do as performance art, because we're an adaptive performance art. It's not like professional sports where you hit your prime in your mid 20s, late 20s maybe, and then that's it. Like, the shelf life for us doesn't really begin until you're about 30.
Straight truth.
Because it takes that long before you really understand the world, like, enough to perform for it, because you have to be a sounding board for it. You have to be able to put something out there that you've been able to read them and be able to receive something back, and kind of reverb it. Like, there's a reactionary element to it that's primary. That's everything about what we do. It takes a while, so you do got to get into the big pond, the big ocean, and get around and see different things, and it forces you to grow, stretch your legs a bit. And like I said in the beginning, like, when you get older, like we are, it helps you to learn how to adapt and to do different things.
I remember when I first started, I was like, man, I can do all of these moves. I can do this, and this. And one of these older guys, a chair across from me, Piloto Suicida, I'll just say it right there. You know who that is.
Yep.
Sat across from me at a Kiss and Charisma show and said, "You don't need to do all that." And I was like, "Okay, old man." Now that I'm the old man, I'm like, I don't need to do all that.
You're right.
5 moves is 4 moves more than I need to do. As long as I can read the room and get the crowd there, that's all that really matters,
And Piloto's still out doing shows telling people that.
Right? Yeah. Like, I saw a flyer for him and Mysterioso, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like, those guys were old when I was young. I just turned 47. I'm 29 years in this business, so Jesus Christ.
They're gonna outlive us all.
Oh man. Speaking of outliving us all, so we got our first question here, and this is from Shane. Shane is asking, what are your top 5 dream matches?
Is this to watch or for myself?
I mean, for you to actually work.
I
mean, you can answer both. That'd be great.
To watch, I don't know. That's a tough one. A lot of them would be hypotheticals, because it's either from a generation past, or a lot of the guys are not around anymore. I always would have loved to see The Rock and Sean.
I don't think they worked a program together, did they?
No, and I would have loved to see Eddie and Sean. Those two really come to mind as ones that I would have wanted to see. For myself, I don't really, excuse me. I got a really bad allergy right now from my cough.
Oh,
I apologize, guys. It's a bad thing about living in the desert. When you travel a lot, you go humid, dry, humid, dry, humid, dry. And
I was just there like 2 weeks ago, so I know. I was there for like 4 days, and it's like, oh my God. I do not miss that dry heat.
For myself, I never really make bucket lists for things, because I feel it's weird to me to put things or people on a pedestal. So it's like, do I have goals in wrestling? Tangibly, not really, because like, I don't care about titles. I feel like it's silly to put those on a pedestal, because then you're putting yourself at the mercy of that thing. Like, now all of a sudden you might finish up one day, and if you didn't accomplish that, you're going to feel like you weren't successful. And that's like, why would you ever want to set yourself up to feel that way? And then, like, same thing with, and like I said, like a company logo doesn't sway me. Like I don't think like it doesn't make me feel like I don't feel anything extra if WWE was like, here's a WrestleMania main event, like New Japan was like, here's the Wrestle Kingdom, show or something like that. Or if, GXWL down the street at the Legion Hall was like, here's our main event at the Knights of Columbus. Like those are all equal to me. It doesn't matter. So, and then for like matches, like opponents, I've felt the same way. Like I don't really put my peers on pedestals. I love them and respect them all. I think the world of all my peers. I've never made a bucket list of like, this is my dream. So I've always said that my dream match is the next one. Whatever the next one is. I hope it's the best match I ever have. And I hope it's the best match he ever has. And then after that's done, my next dream match is the next one after that. Like I hope they're all that way.
That is the most positive answer I've ever heard.
Well, it's something I heard Tom Brady say once. He said, what is your best game you've ever played? And he said the next one. And I said, what a great way to look at life,
Man, it is actually. Man, that is actually. You know what? I'm going to adapt that philosophy, man, because I always say this whenever someone says like, what is your main focus in life? And I always say to wake up the next day better than I was the night before. For
Same
progression.
Idea. Same idea. Yeah.
Yeah, for progression. So here's another question from Just Exciting, and I know he knows the answer to this question because he went through the same thing. But how are you prepping for fatherhood?
My pet pigs kind of gave me a lot of practice last few years. They're 4, so
pigs.
Yeah, they're 4, so that's it. It's like I raised 2 babies and that are toddlers now. They they're a lot of work. They're a lot like kids, so they've really prepared me as somebody who wasn't even a pet person before, but I always knew I wanted a family. Like they really kind of almost, they trained me. So
they are really smart too.
Yeah, so there's that, and we're kind of over prepared here at the house. Like we built the nursery. I've been putting together furniture and everything. We got all the boxes checked off. The kids' grandparents are already telling us, that we're way over prepared. We got more stuff and more things ready than he'll ever need. So they're like, you guys better be prepared to have multiple kids because you're going to need multiple kids to use all that stuff.
Better to be overly prepared than not prepared at all.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because I know when I had my daughter, oh my God, it was weird, man. I was like, every little thing that I could possibly think of doing, I did 3 times over.
Yeah.
And then they were like, it's going to be okay. I'm like, I know it's going to be okay because and I was nervous, it was crazy. So yeah, I totally get you. I totally get it. All right, let's see what we got here. Tim Simmons. Tim says, have you ever watched anything on AEW and learned from it?
Excuse me. Yeah, a lot of times, sometimes I learn a lot from helping other guys who are trying to learn. It's weird. Until now, I've always been the young guy in the room, or at least perceived that way. I've been doing it a long time, just 23 years now. But now I've reached, I think, a real world age that people see me as now like a source of somebody to go to as a leader. And people have in the past, but now it's like more prevalent. So a lot of my friends in AEW, not the older ones, but like there's a lot of the younger guys you will ask me to watch, because I don't really watch wrestling. I guess I should preface it with this. Like I kind of stopped watching wrestling in like 1998. I don't watch WWE. I don't actually watch AEW. I don't even watch Impact. I don't watch anything. I'll watch some stuff my friends are on, but like when I was in WWE, I didn't watch it. I didn't know anything that was going on the show. So if I had to do an interview or something, you had to give me bullet points because I didn't I didn't know what was on the card for WrestleMania. I didn't know what to promote when I was at Access. You'd have to tell me, oh, Undertaker's wrestling Roman like at this WrestleMania. I wouldn't know. But I will watch like when my friends are on. And lately for AEW, I do watch because some guys will ask me to watch, and like they'll call me or something like that, and like afterward, and hey, give me some notes or something like that. And I find that in those situations, or if I'm in the locker room somewhere at a show and I'm helping guys that are asking for help, I find myself learning from helping them because I'll start seeing stuff that I either forgot or stuff that I didn't realize before, and it's expanding upon something. And I'm like, wow, I just learned something from like a brand new dude. You learn stuff every day.
That's that forward progression we were talking about.
Yeah. So like there's certain things like with guys, I'll help them say with their presentation. Like a lot of the guys, some of the younger guys in AEW, this is their first wrestling job. So being the tempo and speed and production breaks like of a major league promotion is brand new to them. And in giving them certain things, like certain notes on how to handle that, how to, set a tempo and things like that, I find myself finding new ways to do it from watching them. And I'm like, wow, like you guys are teaching me. Whether you guys realize it or not, you guys are teaching me as much as I'm helping you. So little things like that, I'll pick up from watching the show occasionally.
You learn something new every time you watch a show, every time you're in the ring, every time you're watching someone else. So I always tell people, the moment you think you know everything in this business, it's time to quit. Because if you know everything, then you're done. Let's see. Royston had this to say: will TJ ever win a world championship in any promotion? I would consider the X Division title and the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. I would consider those world titles.
Yeah, I guess in the like UFC sense, like the light heavyweight title is a world title. They're all world titles,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes, especially after WWE or like, outside of WWE, I'll be kind of like nudged in those directions. And not that I shy away from it, but I'll make it known that I don't really care about those sort of things. So a lot of times, maybe that kind of checks myself out of those spots. I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, who knows? But all I know is that for me, it doesn't like winning a world title doesn't move the needle for my world. So like, I guess in that way, I don't know. Cause I don't really care. I don't know if that's bad. I just don't care.
Well, as long as I've known you, it's always been about the work for you. It's not really been about the glory. So, I mean, I can see that it's all about the work for you. Let's see what this guy has to say here. And Spencer, I still think you should pass down the manic and suicide gimmicks like Tiger Mask.
I would love to. I mean, technically, I guess I've passed suicide now. So
Yeah.
I think the current version is way better than, in a lot of ways than I am, but cooler costume for sure. I like the
Imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery, my friend.
yeah. I like the grittiness of the new Suicide. Like it looks like Suicide was like a DC comics character. Like it's like very Gotham City. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Like Red Hood,
Yeah.
like Red Robin, Nightwing, whatever, whatnot. All right, let's see. Cheryl says, "Good evening, gentlemen." And Tim Simmons was another question. Which do you enjoy most, indie shows or other?
Any. My favorite show I think I've ever done is Lucha Vavoom. I think it's my favorite show. It's the ultimate wrestling show for casual audiences. And nobody that goes to Lucha Vavoom is a wrestling fan. They're just people that find out about the show and go. And it's so funny when you have an audience that's like so pure like that. And you can perform in front of them, like the type of rhythm and emotion and things like that. Their attention span, like it's just so different. And I love it because it's so pure.
Yeah, I worked for Liz. I think I worked for her twice. Um, she did a show. She did a show in San Francisco, and then she did one in Oregon. And yeah, it's an interesting situation to work for that company because, like you said, it's not like it's like wrestling meets burlesque meets like a old '80s movie. You know, it's really it's I really can't explain unless you actually see a Lucha Vavoom show, ladies and gentlemen. It's really hard to explain.
Yeah, it's
So
part comedy, part concert, part circus.
it's like
You know.
remember that company Johnny Legend used to run Incredibly Strange Wrestling.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, just amped up.
I could see that. I think that's a good comparison. It's like if you took wrestling from a movie, um, like professional wrestling in a mainstream production, like television or a movie or something like that. It's not so much wrestling the way that like diehard fans would know it. It's wrestling the way that people who've only heard of wrestling would assume it's you know, like Hulk Hogan and Rocky 3, or
Yeah,
like
Thunder Lips.
yeah, or like Spider-Man versus Bonesaw from Spider-Man, like um there or just Nacho Libre the entire movie. Like there's
Yeah,
just certain like that's what the average person who isn't a wrestling fan perceives wrestling as. And that's kind of like how Lucha Vavoom is, and that's what makes me love it so much. And just the aesthetic, that gets very complete as a show because it's not reliant on the wrestling. So there's a good sense of presentation that I feel like sometimes professional wrestling lacks because we just make it so much about the wrestling
yeah,
that we forget that, people need different parts of like their psyche like stimulated, and it needs to appeal to more senses than just that corner of their brain that's attached to the wrestling part.
that's a very good way to put it. Very good way to put it. And Cheryl has a question, and Cheryl, it hasn't been asked, but not sure if this has been asked yet. But which match would be considered your most memorable one so far?
hmm a lot of, I guess the easy answer is the Cruiserweight Classic, the semifinals and finals. um they were almost back to back, and the matches are memorable and kind of meant a lot, I think, to the company. Historically pretty big moments, not just for WWE, but probably for just wrestling in general. Because that really kind of, and I don't know that we knew it at the time, but I think those matches that I had closing out the CWC and just the Cruiserweight Classic in general, like that opened the gates for the company to start trusting guys like Adam Cole or like Pete Dunne, Roderick Strong, like the smaller guys. Before that, they were like, they didn't want to really open the gates for all of them. They might let one in every now and then, but I think that was like that opened their eyes. And then for the next 4 or 5 years, all of a sudden there was all the guys that had not gotten good opportunities for a while, the Ricochets of the world. Now they had this free lane to show the world what they have, and they thrived. So for me, like, I've always been really proud of that because it's not just an important part of WWE history, it changed wrestling. Because now, because that happened, who knows, like, what, like, not, I don't want to say fallout, but like the growth and debut of AEW. Now it's like all guys that are like that, like great wrestling commodities of all shapes and sizes. Like, who knows if that has the same weight to it if WWE didn't start latching onto these guys, which they wouldn't have done maybe if the Cruiserweight Classic wasn't a success. So it's like it may have been like this butterfly effect that changed a lot of stuff for the next few years. And if so, it's humbling to think that I may have been like the pivot point of that. So that's probably the easiest answer for that question.
Moving the needle, definitely moving the needle. And speaking of moving the needle, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick minute to pay some bills here. Then we'll be right back with more TJP. We'll be right back.
Professional wrestling is one of the toughest sports going today. If you ever dreamed of being a professional wrestler, then former WWE superstar and World Tag Team Champion Sir Mo of the famed tag team Men on a Mission invites you, yes, you, to join his Bumps and Bruises Academy. Now in 2 locations in Carrollton, Texas and Sherwood, Arkansas. Allow Sir Mo and his head coach, Dante Smiley, and other coaches to get you on the road to an exciting and rewarding career. Classes forming now for your shot. Contact Sir Mo at 704-819-7312 or fill out an information questionnaire now. Don't wait, make your dreams come true today by joining the Bumps and Bruises Pro Wrestling Academy.
Hi, this is James Beard with SWE Fury, and you're watching the Roundtable Pro Wrestling Podcast.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the one and only TJ Perkins. TJ, man, this whole thing about being a dad's kind of throwing me off with you, man. It's like damn, like I remember, like, you ever just like see someone and then be like, God, I remember when they were so little, and then all of a sudden you're like, now they're an adult, and all of a sudden they have kids.
I mean, it's like I went from being Blink 182 to the Rolling Stones overnight.
There it is. You're making me feel old right now, by the way. Thank you very much.
I went from being like Ferris Bueller to John Wayne. Now I'm like the stoic old man now.
Telling the kids to get off your lawn.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. We got one more question from Tim. What do you think of the talent at NXT?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I feel bad saying this because it almost justifies a lot of the cuts that they've made, but the talent pool is so deep there that it's like they still don't even feel it, because they have so many great guys that are still there. Blake Christian, I believe he wrestles as Trey Baxter.
Yeah.
He's there, and then
he's phenomenal, man.
Yeah, so many of the NXT UK guys. There's still, Johnny and Tommaso. There's just so many guys there that are incredible. They're just they're never. I don't think they're ever going to be without incredible talent. It would take a long time, stocking the cupboard with different types of performers and athletes before they run out of talents like a Blake Christian or like a Johnny and a Tommaso, guys like that. But who knows? Maybe that's where they're headed. I mean, wouldn't be the first time, but it'll take a while before I think they burn through a lot of the talent that they still have.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense too. I mean, they seem to have taken like every independent wrestler when AEW was starting up to make sure they didn't get them, and now they're just like, now we have all these people.
Well, I mean, who knows if that's really why they were stocking up on guys? Like, was it to keep them away from New Japan, AEW, Impact, or whatever? Or were they really trying to build around something that they felt like was a growing trend? And now do they feel like, let's get away from the trends because it's too trendy? Who knows? I think in the general sense, like we said in the beginning, it's a life experience game. So a lot of these guys, taking these elite athletes in their early to mid 20s and expecting them to be contributors in less than 5 years. No way.
Yeah, that's a lot, man. That's like too quick,
well, especially because, it's not that you couldn't, and there's obviously exceptions to the rule. I mean, Brock Lesnar, The Rock, Randy Orton, there's guys that have been able to do it. But I'm just saying that, like, not only are these guys not from wrestling, it doesn't really matter what size or whatever they are, but they're young and they're not gonna have the experience necessary to perform at the level that Vince needs them to, and it's demanding. It's hard to perform at that level, and they're not going to get the experience in the performance center. It's just not realistic. You have to put them out in the real world with no safety nets. They need to learn what it's like to crash and burn, and I don't mean in the physical sense. I mean to fail in the creative sense. They need to be dejected. They need to fail. They need to have crowds completely reject them in the Knights of Columbus or in a bingo hall somewhere, like in an arena that doesn't speak their language. They need to feel that if they're going to grow, and they can't get that in the PC, and they can't get that in the NXT house show loops that they have in local markets in Florida. It's too sheltered. It's pretend experience is what it is. It's pretend. It's not real experience.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. And Cheryl said it best. They need humbling.
I mean, like that she's not wrong. I mean, the recruits, they just, you need to learn what it's like to lose, And that system is putting them in a position where they're never going to know what it's like to lose. Because when they have a bad night, there's a safety net there. They're having a bad night at home. The PCs are home. They don't know what it's
get it
like.
We did.
Well, I'm just saying, like, these guys don't know what it's like to have the variables of, say, packing their bag and going to work for a paycheck or an envelope of cash that's not coming from Vince McMahon. They may not get that. Like, does anybody know what it's like to perform under that type of stress that you may not even get paid that night because you actually don't know who your boss is? You don't know them that well. Like
indie shows in Southern California.
That'll make you, in the business sense of what wrestling is, that'll make you a man real fast.
Oh yeah.
To have to do that for a couple of years. These guys will never know what that's like. They'll never know what it's like to be in a bad ring. They'll never know what it's like to be in front of a crowd that's not conditioned to like the logo that's on the banner. Everywhere they go, even like doing the little like Florida loop, Largo, Orlando, Jacksonville, all these different cities. Like, I know the coaches mean well, and they're doing their best to simulate, the road and the traveling experience. But these fans are going knowing they're watching a WWE product. Like, they're already conditioned. Like, the guys putting their tights on and boots, they're halfway successful just because that logo is on the show flyer. They don't have to win these people over completely. They just need to get them over the hump. They're already there to see a show that they like, technically, because they're WWE fans. That little difference means everything, and these guys will never know what that's like. So to ask them to be ready, especially at an age where, in your early to mid 20s, that you're not ready to absorb the world and cultures and read a room yet, but you're also going to read a room that's prefabricated for you. Like, they're not going to get that. So once they burn through, the Johnnies, Tommasos, Blake Christians, and people like that, that's on the roster, Swerve, all these guys, like, once they burn through those dudes, the new layer coming up is going to be very ill prepared, and that's just reality.
Yeah, they figure the WWE, they're watching superstars. That's true. Speaking of upcoming superstars, did you attend or know anyone that attended the tryouts in Vegas this last weekend?
No, I actually forgot SummerSlam was this last weekend. I was working in Chicago same day, and I didn't even know until somebody called me from home and they asked if I was in town, and I said no. And then I asked, why are you in town? And they said, because of SummerSlam. I said, oh, yeah, I forgot.
I started to text you when I was in town, the last weekend, and I was like, I saw you posted you were out of town, and I was like, shit, I'm not gonna message him. And then I realized that Willie was gone too, and I'm like, oh, they're doing Impact tapings. That's what's going on.
Yeah, I completely forgot.
Yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, man, I was in Vegas when the Raiders were playing, and I was like, wow, there's a what? I was like, the Uber driver was driving, like, what's going on, man? He's like, oh, it's a Raider game. I'm like, what? A Raider game? What? Like they're playing already? Like, because I was preseason football, and it was like, you know, when you're walking down the Vegas Boulevard, there's like 1,000,001 people.
Yeah.
But it was like a different atmosphere. You know, and then I left that Sunday. I got home, and then a couple of people I know from Portland were like, hey, we're going to Vegas for SummerSlam. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. It was crazy with the football game there. You know, so it's ridiculous. But yeah, before I let you go, man, just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. You know, we always love having you on the show. We always like having people that are humble, down to earth, and who are knowledgeable. And I tell people all the time, you're one of the most knowledgeable people that I know. From being a young guy in this industry to being the grown man that you are right now, it's humbling to know that you have come so far and is still so leveled and so centered. So, congratulations on the new baby. Hug the wife, you know, kiss the baby when the baby comes out. And yeah, man, just enjoy this, because I guarantee you, I got 5 championship belts in this trophy case right now. And those belts don't mean shit to me, because the little girl in the room on the other side of this door was the most important like thing that I've ever created, ever had given to me in my entire life. You're gonna feel the same thing. Trust and believe. When you look in your baby's eyes for the first time, it's gonna be like, man.
I mean,
game over.
I got a couple of those here that, to be honest, I probably just gonna be toys for the little man when he gets. He'll be chewing on the cruiserweight title that the office sent me. But I hope so. You know, if I can at least be my kid's first hero, I'd be proud of that.
Oh, trust me, dude. You're gonna be your kid's hero, man. I'm gonna tell you, the coolest thing that's ever happened to me in all my life. My daughter was doing a report on famous black history, or famous black athletes in history, and my ex-wife didn't tell me what was going on at the time. My daughter kept asking me questions about wrestling, and she hates wrestling. Like, I'm like, hey, wrestling is the reason why you have a house to live in, and you know why daddy drives a nice car and all those other cool things. You know, you have nice shoes all the time. It's because of wrestling. And my ex-wife was like, do you know what her project is? And I'm like, no, what is it? She goes, it's a project on you. Don't be a dick and say anything to her about it. So she leaves her laptop open. And my daughter lives with me, so she's always here. So she leaves her laptop open, and I see this full-on story. Dude, she found articles from PWI, the Pro Wrestling Torch. She found like stuff off of she found some really inaccurate information about championships and how long I've been wrestling. She went to Cage Match, and I literally was like, she studied so much to do a 50-word essay. And it was crazy. But just the simple fact that she spent all that time. Yeah, I'm talking about you. She spent all that time to do something like that because of me was like the most humbling thing in the world. Her son's going to do the same thing, and you're just going to be like, wow, this kid.
Well, I would be honored if he did. Hopefully he takes after his aunt and becomes a doctor, though. My sister's a better role model than I am, I think. But I can't wait for him to arrive any day now. So it's exciting.
Man, well, good luck with that. And you know, I want to do something real quick for the fans here, because I usually do it at the end of some podcasts. But I want to have you do it.
Okay.
Give us your final thoughts. Just let fans know, if you can tell, if a young fan came up to you and asked you about getting into the business, or what the business means to you, sum up what the business means to you in a final thought.
Wow. Well, I suppose they say that anything worth doing in life, if you're not having fun, it's not worth doing. And there's certain things in what we choose to do in our lives, for fun or whatever. At some point, it has to be grounded in realism. And like I said, if you really love this art, there's a difference between loving the art and loving the attention or say the money. And you have to separate all these elements. If I told you there was $500 in a tree 6 hours away, you just got to drive out there, climb up and get it. You probably couldn't be bothered to do that. So that's a lot. But if I told you you can drive 6 hours and make $20 to do what we do, a lot of people would have a totally different answer. And that's insightful because it speaks to a love of the art. It speaks to perhaps a very poor sense of business. And all of these are important things. So, just remember that life is long and it's also short. So stay in the moment and enjoy everything for what it is and separate every purpose for what it's meant to be. And that is the best way to stay grounded and to enjoy your life and to live a very long one, because every moment is going to last a lifetime. Before you know it, you'll be as old as me and you'll have forgotten so many of the moments, but at least you will have learned a lot, lived a lot, and hopefully have a lot to pass on to your family.
Very insightful. Very insightful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us here on the Roundtable Pro Wrestling Podcast. Congratulations on your baby being on board. Enjoy and embrace your miracle. That's right. Embrace that little miracle when it comes out. So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here on the Roundtable Pro Wrestling Podcast. TJ, always a pleasure to have you on, man. You are one of those guys that I can truly say is a good egg. You know what I mean? Through and through, you're a good guy, and I wish you all the best. You and the little lady and the newborn baby to be. Stay safe, stay COVID free, please, and always stay positive, man, because you're one of the most positive people in the industry, and this industry needs people like you.
Thank you very much, brother.
So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the Roundtable Pro Wrestling Podcast. We will see you tomorrow night when we have Real Faithy J, the newest WWE signee, and some cat from MLW. We'll be right back next week.